Welcome to Peat Island, an island owned by the Beaver Group and the fourth island on our peat and wetlands investigation project with Falklands Conservation. We packed up our things from Saddle Island and made the journey to Peat Island, which has been grazed in the past but is now left to its own devices.
Peat Island, that used to be stocked and grazed. They took the livestock off in the late 70s, I believe. Hasn't had anything on it since we've been here. We go and visit occasionally, but otherwise it's just being kept as is to restore the land.
There is evidence of human interaction with the collapsed peat shed present. With our wellies sanitised almost immediately disembarking, we unknowingly entered a plant battleground, as Tussac grass competed with the new species of the trip, the Boxwood grass.
So you had a kind of interesting mix, like you'd wade through some tussock and then you get to a kind of forest of boxwood and you have to kind of make your way through there too. So that was really quite nice actually. It was a bit of variety, and then of course there's a huge hill up there which we decided to climb up, and again absolutely worth it. It was very steep, but when we got to the top you could see for miles around. It was quite stunning up there.
The first task at hand was to extract a soil bulk density sample to work out the carbon capture.
It's quite an easy process. Beveled end into the soil first, just there. And then we just basically hammer it in until the top edge is flush with the soil. And then I'll lever it out with this. One of the problems with this soil here is it's really loose and friable, which suggests to me that this has been cleared of vegetation at some point in the past, and this soil has blown in and now we're just starting to get vegetation regrowing on it. So this sample probably won't work too well because it may just all fall out, but actually it's not too bad. If I just clear that there. And then once we've bagged it, we'll label it, we'll take it to the labs and we'll process that up at DOA.
The sample is then weighed and dried and weighed again, and it's this difference that tells us the overall moisture content of the soil. The dried weight is also divided by the volume to give the bulk density of the soil. The sample is then finally incinerated, and that difference in weight will give the carbon content. Nearer the shores you see large boxwood grass stands, and as you move inland these get smaller as the wind is pushing their advance inland.
One of the things we're very interested in here is what invertebrates are associated with this and what the soil type associated with this is. We know from work on Hummock Island that there's a huge number of invertebrates associated with boxwood. So the significance of plants like this is that once the roots take hold, you'll start that peat forming process again, and the roots themselves will start binding the soil together and reduce the impacts of erosion.
Whilst boxwood helps the soil, it is important to identify other plant species associated with the habitat. To do this, a quadrat is set up, revealing the plant battleground.
So what I'd ordinarily do is set up a 200 metre squared quadrat and we'd identify all the plants within that quadrat. Here I've just set up a much smaller quadrat using these tent poles, and we'll just have a look at what plants we've got in here. So, I mean, the obvious one that everybody knows is diddle-dee. Got a bit of sheep sorrel here, bit of Yorkshire fog grass there. The boxwood will eventually encroach on all this and end up with a closed canopy. So these plants probably won't be viable then, because these will outcompete and outshade them. But that's good, because the boxwood should be here. It is a boxwood habitat area, and you can see the boxwood creeping up the hill.
With the surveying and exploring done, it was time to hop back onto the dinghy and back to the Sersha, where we were greeted by a curious pod of dolphins. For David, it has been a successful initial trip, especially regarding the habitats.
So I think the ultimate conclusion of this island is it's one of the best boxwood habitats that we're seeing in the Falklands on the offshore islands. There's other places like Hummock Island and Staats Island behind us that have got good boxwood stands as well, but this one's up there as one of the best.
And so concluded the Peat and Wetlands Island trip. In total, 4 uninhabited islands were investigated. In the future, there are plans to go again for a longer period of time to gather more in-depth scientific results.
The Peatlands project is a means to an end in terms of trying to bring some of the habitats and the understanding of some of these habitats to the community and make it much more accessible. Hopefully this will give an indication of what might be achievable if restoration, you can help this restoration process along to try to encourage the return of some of these rarer native habitats back into the landscape.
For now though, the islands are kept alone and continue to be human intervention free.